Imagine waking up one morning with this unsettling realization. You've been living inside someone else's script. A script that tells you to work hard now, suffer now, sacrifice now, and maybe, just maybe, you'll get to enjoy your life when you're too old to fully live it. But what if this script is outdated? What if the world we live in today doesn't require your presence in an office, your hours at a desk, or your youth sacrificed to a grind that barely leaves room for breath? This is the bold, liberating world Timothy Ferriss opens in The 4-Hour Workweek. Ferriss isn't a motivational speaker. He's not a theorist. He's someone who built freedom by trial, by failure, by experimentation, and by refusing to accept that this is just how life is. And in this journey you're about to take, he hands you the key to designing a life that feels intentionally yours, not one shaped by tradition, fear, or routine. Today, we're diving into rich, human-centered lessons. Lessons with emotional depth, real-world grounding, and stories that reflect what these ideas look like in real people's lives. And at the end, you'll understand why Ferriss didn't just write a book, he started a movement. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Lifestyle design. Choosing your own version of freedom. What if the life you're chasing isn't even the life you truly want? Ferriss starts by challenging the invisible structure we all grow up inside, the idea that success is measured by busyness, exhaustion, and long hours. According to him, most people don't actually want massive wealth. They want the freedom, joy, and peace they believe money can buy. But Ferriss argues that you don't need millions to experience the millionaire lifestyle. You simply need to design a life where your time, location, and energy belong to you. He describes the new rich not as people dripping in luxury, but as people dripping in options. People who don't ask, how do I earn more? But instead ask, how can I live more? They reject the idea that life begins at retirement and instead carve micro-retirements across their journey. This shift in thinking is powerful. It frees you from chasing validation through overwork. It teaches you that freedom doesn't arrive after decades of sacrifice, it begins the moment you redefine what success actually means for you. Viewpoint. I once knew a man who spent years chasing promotions, thinking each one would finally make him feel alive. But nothing ever changed. The stress got heavier, the smiles got fewer, and the life he hoped for stayed out of reach. After reading Ferriss, he asked himself one honest question. If I could wake up anywhere tomorrow, doing anything, what would it be? That simple question was the spark. It led him to rearrange his work schedule, build a side income, and eventually take a 2-month trip across South America, something he had postponed for over a decade. His income didn't skyrocket, his freedom did. Lesson 2. Elimination. Doing less to live more. What if everything stealing your time is something you've been tolerating for years? This is where Ferriss becomes almost surgical. He looks at the modern workday and exposes it for what it is: a bloated, noisy structure built on unnecessary tasks. He believes that productivity is not about doing more, it's about removing everything that doesn't matter. And when you strip your life down to only the essentials, you discover that most of what keeps you busy contributes almost nothing to your actual goals or happiness. He talks about the heavy psychological addiction people have to busyness. Because being busy feels safe. It feels familiar. It makes you feel important. Yet deep down, most people know they're moving a lot without actually going anywhere. Ferriss suggests crafting a life where distractions no longer dictate your day, a life where you answer emails on your terms, where your time belongs to your priorities and not to the random demands of others. Viewpoint. I knew someone who used to check emails every 5 minutes because they were terrified of appearing unresponsive. They spent entire days reacting to tiny requests and ended every evening drained. After embracing elimination, they shifted to handling emails only twice a day. At first, they were terrified. But nothing collapsed. The world didn't end. Their clients didn't riot. Instead, their stress levels plummeted. Their creativity soared. For the first time in years, they felt in control. That's the power of removing the unnecessary. You regain your life. Lesson 3. Automation. Letting systems work so you don't have to. What if your income didn't depend on your presence? This lesson is where Ferriss dismantles the myth that the only way to earn money is by trading hours for dollars. He explains that the real breakthrough comes when you build systems that handle repetitive work on autopilot, systems that allow you to earn whether you're working, sleeping, or exploring a new city. But he doesn't glamorize it. He explains how it starts: small, messy, sometimes unreliable, but transformative. Automation is about finding that point where you no longer touch every task with your own hands. Where technology, delegation, and strategy replace manual effort. He talks about outsourcing responsibilities you don't need to personally handle, empowering tools to manage your workflow, and building small business models that don't depend on your constant attention. It's not about avoiding work, it's about elevating yourself above the kind of work that drains your life. Viewpoint. I once watched a friend burn out managing every piece of his online shop: packaging, emails, inventory, customer questions, everything. He was making money but losing himself. When he finally automated his customer service and hired someone part-time, everything changed. His income didn't double overnight, but his peace did. His time came back to him. And Ferriss would say that's the true beginning of freedom. Lesson 4. Liberation. Freedom from locations, limits, and conventional work. What if your job didn't care where you were? Only that the work got done. Liberation is Ferriss' emotional crescendo. It's where he shows how work, when designed intelligently, can be done from anywhere. Not just because traveling is glamorous, but because mobility wakes you up. It breaks the monotony. It reminds your spirit that life is bigger than the streets you were raised on. He teaches how people can negotiate remote work, how employers often care more about results than physical presence, and how your environment influences your identity. He talks about the beauty of earning in one economic environment while living in another, a concept that feels almost rebellious but incredibly practical. The heart of this lesson isn't travel. It's choice. The choice to work from a cafe, from another city, from another continent, or from your own living room with sunlight on your face instead of fluorescent lights buzzing above your head. Viewpoint. A couple I know worked traditional office jobs for years. They weren't unhappy, but they felt trapped. After months of negotiation and proving they could deliver remotely, both were granted partial work from home status. Within a year, they were living in Mexico, still working the same jobs but spending sunsets by the ocean instead of sitting in traffic. Their salaries didn't change, their lives did. Ferriss would call that liberation. And he's right. Lesson 5. Mini retirements. Living life in beautiful slices. Why wait until your body is old and your energy is gone to start living? This is one of the most emotionally charged ideas in the book. Ferriss refuses to accept that humans should spend the best years of their lives working non-stop and then hope to enjoy life at the end. He sees mini retirements as emotional nourishment, periods where you step outside your routine and rediscover yourself. He describes them not as vacations, not as escapes, but as intentional seasons of living. Seasons where you slow down, explore new cultures, learn languages, pick up new passions, reconnect with your inner self, and remember that joy is not a privilege, it's a need. He challenges the idea that fulfillment must be delayed. And in doing so, he offers a beautiful truth: your life doesn't have to wait. Viewpoint. Someone I know took a 3-month break to live in a quiet coastal town. No job change. No massive savings. Just a temporary pause. She learned to cook new dishes, spent afternoons reading by the water, and met locals who showed her a pace of life she never imagined. She returned home transformed, calmer, wiser, and more alive. Those 3 months did more for her soul than 10 years of rushed living ever could. Lesson 6. Fear setting. The cure for a paralyzed life. What if fear is only powerful because you've never looked it in the eye? Ferriss ends with something deeply personal, a practice that saved him during breakdowns and anxiety. He calls it fear setting. It's a process where you sit down and confront your fears with brutal honesty instead of letting them swirl in your imagination like monsters in the dark. Fear setting forces you to define the worst that could happen, explore how you would prevent it, and understand how you would recover from it. And something magical happens when you do this. Fear loses its teeth. You discover that the worst-case scenario is almost never as catastrophic as your mind paints it to be. Ferriss believes that most people are not stopped by risk but by the story they've created around the risk. Viewpoint. A friend of mine spent years wanting to start a creative business but kept delaying out of fear. When she finally wrote down the absolute worst-case scenario, she realized that even if everything failed, she would still be okay. She could move back home temporarily, find freelance gigs, and rebuild. That simple exercise gave her courage. She started the business. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. And the fear that once controlled her became something she learned to manage instead of obey. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these lessons hit you the hardest? Which one felt like it was speaking directly to your life right now? Tim Ferriss didn't write The 4-Hour Workweek to give you inspiration. He wrote it to give you permission. Permission to question norms, to redesign your days, to seek joy without guilt, and to stop waiting for some perfect future moment to start living fully. If this summary sparked something in you, tell me in the comments. Your insight might resonate with someone else watching. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and dive into more summaries right here on Summary Shelf. Every video is crafted to help you think deeper, grow stronger, and build a life that feels truly yours. Stay bold. Stay curious. And stay designing your freedom.